ESTI, and the Emotional and Social Competency Inventory, ESCI. Prior to joining LBS, she had over 15 years of a wide variety of experience in the areas of information technology, corporate development and strategic planning, people development, and people preparation for change. Uchora currently sits on the faculty for the Lagos Business School, where she has lectured for over a decade in various areas of organizational behavior and human resource management. She has designed, directed, and delivered several retreats, open and customized seminars for several companies in the public and private sectors. She has facilitated leadership sessions in advanced managers and chief executive programs in Nigeria and Europe. She combines her teaching and research interests with industry consulting engagements. Her industry engagements span state government units, information technology services, financial services, telecommunications, oil and gas, real estate, and fabric care sectors. Her current research interest is the nature of human behavior with a focus on self-knowledge and self-leadership, organizational leadership, and formal and informal group dynamics. Please make welcome Uchora Udoji.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to meet you this morning. And Chiemeka captured me and asked me to come and have a conversation with you on how to build corporate allure in such a way that you position your dental practice to attract and retain preferred human resources. Now, when he did this, I said to him, I don't know anything about this profession, besides going in for a couple of extractions, fillings, and other matters. I really don't know much about this, sector. But then I had enough time to have a conversation and to do some research looking at what's going on in your profession. And I got some not so bad news. The not so bad news came from people in your profession. Somebody here says, life expectancy of teeth in Nigeria is still high, which is good news. Many elderly people in their 30s still have more than 20 teeth in their mouths. I think this is good news. Is this good news? 20 teeth. Okay. I have another piece of not so bad news. Because our diets do not contain much sugar, loss of tooth as a result of tooth decay appears to be less than those in industrialized countries. Is this good news? I think it is somehow, but I wondered about this statement simply because I know that in those industrialized countries, you have insurance, you have access to dental care, you sometimes even get it for free at a certain age. Sometimes, also there's a lot of exposure and education. Sadly, what this means is that if somebody has a cavity, they have access to immediate care. In Nigeria, on the other hand, even with the little sugar you consume, if you have a problem, there's absolutely nowhere to go. So I'm not so sure that this is such good news, but it's not so bad. But there's the not so good news. The not so good news is, one of your colleagues says, no fewer than 144 million Nigerians are living with various oral health problems. Now, there's a reason why I feel very uncomfortable about this, and I'll get to that later. But there's another piece of bad news, or not so good news. The effect of losing many teeth will affect the structure of the face, including your looks and the way you speak. I close my eyes and I try to imagine Nigeria in another 20 years. And I think I see people looking like and sounding like people from the planet Mars. If this is how bad the situation is. But besides this, I got talking also to some dentists, different kinds of dentists, the ones who are established, the ones who are still working somewhere and doing locum elsewhere, the ones who work in public sector and those who have their own private practices. I also spoke to students. By the way, the students and the young graduates are not in agreement with the professors, and they're not in agreement with the people in practice. The people in practice think that the young graduates don't know anything. The young graduates say to me that by the time they are second semester, fourth year, they can do anything with my mouth. And I look at the people saying it, I'm not quite sure I want to do in front of them. But if they say they are good, who am I to say they are not? The professors say, the practitioners say that the professors don't prepare the students well anymore, so that by the time they hit industry, they are not human resource, they are human problems. The professors say it is not our fault, it is the fault of government because they do not provide us enough funds to take care of these students. And they say, anyway, you know how these students are. You tell them what to do and they don't do it. They're always looking for shortcuts. So they shortcut their way out of school, and we are blamed for it. But you see, there are two areas in which all these people agree. And I thought I should have this conversation. They say that a lot of dental practices are just subsistence businesses. About 70% of dentists in private practice are unable to make enough money to sustain them and their practices. And therefore, they venture into other businesses. So you have dentists who are supposed to be professionals, who are also in the business of buying and selling, who have barber shops, who run salons, who are into forwarding and backwarding, and who sometimes, while they are over my mouth, are thinking about their containers that have not been released in the wharf. My question is, what kind of surgery are they going to do on me when they are thinking about their containers? Now, the effect of this is that it damages professionalism, because at a point, you're not so sure what you are anymore. That's the sad aspect of this. The second thing they agree on is that more than 50% of our young dentists leave the country after gaining 3 to 6 years experience in practice. This is very bad news. It's bad news for many reasons. It's bad news because if you remember, I said to you, we're going to talk about the 144 million people who have oral problems, right? Oral hygiene, issues, hygiene issues. Now, if this is the case, and we are producing dentists, these dentists join the private sector or join residency or whatever, they gain 3 to 6 years experience. At a point when they are supposed to be contributing to this country, they leave to go and service other countries who don't have the problems that we have. It doesn't make sense. And what I hear is that when they leave, they don't have any plans of coming back. It's very sad news. The second implication of this exit is that, you know, when you are an experienced practitioner and they send you a young person, when you spend time developing that person, you're developing that person because you expect that person to develop the younger ones, right? It's pretty much like family, right? You have 5 children. Typically, parents take all their energy and deal with the first 2, hoping that the first 2 will help them sort out the last 3. Are we together on this? Same thing. The whole idea is that as you advance in age, you free yourself up to do lighter work. And you're able to do this because you have developed the people who are younger, who can do more strenuous work. Problem is, as you're developing them, they are leaving. The implication is that at the age of 80, you will still be developing people who look at you and wonder why you're talking to them, because you're sleeping halfway. Second implication is that professions change and professions go through some kind of phases. If you look back at your profession, the way you practiced dentistry in 1940 is different from the way you practice dentistry in 1960. Different from the way you practice dentistry today. What is different is that the knowledge has changed. Technology has changed. Okay, I'll get to Gnetworks. Now, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and for some people even up to 60s, they are very comfortable with strenuous learning. So you go, you develop yourself, you get to know what's going on, what's new. But as you begin to approach 65, 70, the whole idea of going out to sit in a classroom and learn gives you palpitations. Forget what those books say about lifelong learning. You want to continue to learn, but you don't want to learn under strenuous conditions. So, the whole idea is that as you are aging, the younger people take over and you slowly or gradually exit. The problem right now is that if this continues, there will be nobody to take over, or there will be so few people to take over, or worse still, you will have a profession with an aging population. Now, same thing with technology. Technology changes. And therefore, after a while, think about it. Some people in their 50s, if you give them a laptop, or you give them a tablet, and they say to you, what is this? I can't start now to learn how to use this. And so, what is happening is that you're losing a basic level or several levels of people who should stay back here and champion your profession. Now, the third thing is your networks. You see, if you're one of the older practitioners, perhaps the reason why you have very powerful retainerships from banks, from the oil and gas sector, is because when you were younger, these people who are MDs of banks and oil companies now were either your schoolmates or people you met when you did your NYSC or people you hung out with in clubs when you were younger. So as you were building your practice, they were rising in those organizations. You say to them, oh boy, I need business. They say, come see me, let's talk. Now, what is happening in other professions is that as they get older, they are handing business and responsibility over to younger people. You should be handing your business over to younger people so that when you need more business, you need to retain your business. You send your younger people to go and hustle with their fellow younger people. The problem is that you don't have the younger people. And so, at the age of 70, you are still a hustling dentist. And you are a nuisance. The reason why you're a nuisance is that you go to the senior people and they say, I don't handle those things anymore. You can't talk with the young people because the young people have the people they want to give that business to. It's their time. Do you understand what I'm saying? But if you had younger people, then your younger people will talk with their younger people and you will retain your business. So, what it is that you're looking at 10, 20 years down the line, a profession with an aging population of professionals. Therefore, we need to do something about it. 20 years from now, I would like to go to a dentist's office and I would like to see somebody with steady hands taking care of my teeth. Not somebody who is doing something like this over my mouth and scaring me. Okay. So my question would be, just to be sure that we are all on the same page, what is the first most important thing to do when you get a job, when you set up a company, or when you become a company CEO? Is there someone who would like to tell me the first most important thing to do when you get a job, you set up an organization, or you become a CEO? Nobody? Anybody?
I think the most important thing is to start planning for your retirement.
Thank you very much. I am so glad somebody answered this question because I would have been so embarrassed if nobody was able to. You start planning your exit. And the reason it is important to start planning your exit is because when you start planning your exit, you realize you're on a clock. You start something, you think you have 20 years. You think 20 years is a lot of time. You blink and 20 years flies by. And for some reason, you find that at the age of 70, you're still unprepared to leave. So, in planning your exit, if you do plan your exit, certain key questions will arise. Like, let's say you're the CEO of your own practice. What do I want to do with this practice when I'm done with it? It could be, I don't care. If the answer is I don't care, then you can do the buying and selling and the container thing and the barber shop. That's fine. You'll get by. But if your answer to this question is, I would like to build this business in such a way that we eventually go public. Or I scout around for non-public offering, private placement, professionalize my management, retire and sit on the board, and still have some kind of controlling voice over what happens in my organization. And perhaps receive dividends on investment every year. That sounds like a plan. You can also say, when I'm done with it, I will sell it. Meaning, the way you will organize it will be different from the way you would organize it if you decided on professionalizing through public and all that and all that. You could also decide to pass it on. Now, if you have decided to pass it on to one of your children, what it means is that from day one, you begin to suggest to the child how beautiful the subject of dentistry is. Because if you don't start from year 5 to take her to the clinic or take him to the clinic or to the practice and let them play with the tools a little bit, before you know what is happening, you're building a beautiful business. 4 of your children go to school. 1 studies accounting. The other one studies software engineering. The other one studies marketing. And the other one studies I don't know what. And then you're now hoping that they will marry a dentist so that life will be beautiful. And so every dentist you see, you point to them and say, how do you like that boy? He looks nice. And the only thing nice about the boy is that he is a dentist. And so this is the kind of conversations you should have with yourself as you begin to assume certain roles. You can also decide, I want to wind it down. 2 years before you wind it down, you invite your employees for a meeting and you say to them, in 2 years, this business will cease to exist. As we speak, I'm selling off the company in bits. And your employees will sit there and watch you sell one equipment after the other. And then you settle them with a handsome package, and then they go away and look for other jobs. All these are options. But you see, as you begin to answer this question, a second question therefore arises. When I decide what I want to do when this practice is done, I'm done with this practice, I want to know what kind of practice, therefore, I want to run. Because what you want to do with the practice will determine the way you run the practice, right? Okay. So the answer may also be, I don't care, in which case that's fine. Or it could be, I want to leave a legacy. The answer to that question that you choose, your preferred answer, will decide how you answer the next question. What kinds of people do I want to run this practice with? And so, if you're looking for a partner, you're thinking of the kind of business you want to run. You're thinking of what to do with the practice when it's done. So when you're picking a partner, you're picking that partner with some information and knowledge backing you. And also when you're preparing the partnership contract, you're preparing that partnership contract based on the answers that you have given yourself to these questions. So for example, the answer to this can again be, I don't give a flying fig. Or it could also be, I need to run this practice with fellow voyagers, people who share my values, people who believe in the things I believe in. Not that we cannot have an argument, not that we agree on anything and everything, but we can work together to take this business to where I want it to be. Now, thinking about who you want to run this practice with raises the final question, who do I want to employ? See, this is the reason why it is highly recommended that before you begin to set up a business, you should do some business planning. Now, well, Bill Gates and Richard Branson never really had a business plan before they started. But the point is that even if you start without a business plan, somewhere along the line, you should start thinking about a business plan, especially when the business begins to look like it has prospects. And these are the kinds of things you would have in a business plan. My guess is that yesterday, somebody had this conversation with you. Now, the last one there is the most important, because you can't accomplish the rest without that one. Human resources. You can't do any kind of strategy or service or marketing without human beings. You need people. Now, once you have done your business plan, you will notice a word that keeps occurring. You will notice the word strategy, 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 occurring several times in a business plan. You cannot run any strategy without a firm strategic intent. A firm strategic intent has 10 components. You need to have a vision, mission, that is an expansion of the vision. You need to have goals coming from the mission. You need objectives coming straight from the goals, and so on and so forth. Point is, by the time you're done thinking of these first three, you're beginning to ask yourself, who am I going to do this with? Because you need to think about the roles that people will play in your business. So human resources, very, very important. Now, you will go out to recruit, because now you know you need to work with people, because you can't do it alone. The people you will be going out to recruit view work in one of three ways. Every person who works views work in one of three ways. And when you ask them, you have a conversation with them, in 30 minutes you know exactly what their view of work is. There are people who view work as an occupation, a place they go to, earn money, and go home. I wake up, I go to work, I do my job. You pay me, you mind your business, I mind mine. Story ends. There are people who view work as a profession. In other words, they view work as a place they go to earn dignity and respect, because what they do requires of them a high level of knowledge, experience, and expertise. So they see work as a profession. I don't know who you prefer, but I prefer the second group to the first group. When the second group of people are working for you, you see better productivity, you see impact on the business. These people of, I come to work, I do my job, you pay me, I go home, they don't add much value to the organization. But somehow they find their way into organizations, and that's fine. The third view of work, people who view work as a vocation. They view it, in other words, they don't see work as work, they see work as a movement, as a cause, to which they have been uniquely invited and to which they have freely responded. And they want to contribute immensely to that cause, so they leave their footprints on that cause, because that is about the only thing that brings them satisfaction. I don't know again what you're thinking, but I'd rather hire somebody who views work as a vocation than the first two. Sadly, finding the people who view work as a vocation is not an easy task, because you're looking for people who are engaged and committed. And that's tough. Engagement means that you have a positive work-related state of mind. In other words, when you work with vigor, you work with energy, you throw yourself into the job, you immerse yourself in the job. People who are highly engaged are typically in flow state when they work. They can't think of anything else but how to do that job beautifully. Engagement comes from the person. It is a function of your personality. It is a function of your upbringing. It is a function of your value system, and so on and so forth. So engagement is personal. It's an individual thing. The sad thing about engagement, though, as beautiful as it is that research has shown that an engaged employee is not necessarily committed or loyal to your organization. This is the reason why you see them working so hard 2 years after they have joined the practice. And then one day they are working late. It's about 9 o'clock and you're about to leave. You see a light on in their office. You go to say, thank you for working hard. You open the door and you find that they are applying for residency. They are planning to leave you. Are we together on this? Engagement does not necessarily mean that your people are committed. They are working very hard, but they are perhaps working very hard for their own benefit. And perhaps they are using you as a stepping stone to wherever it is they are headed. This is the reason why commitment is important. Commitment is a state of mind, a psychological attachment to the firm, to the organization, to the practice. It is about loyalty. It's about doing things not just for yourself, but also for the practice or for the organization. Now, the beautiful thing about commitment is that when people are committed, they intend to stay. They don't just intend to stay, they feel connected to the organization. They don't just feel connected to the organization, they show it in their actions. They go the extra mile to serve the organization. What does this sound like? Sounds to me like somebody in love. When you have an employee that is in love with your organization, you sleep well at night. You know that the job will be done because you have a reliable person, somebody you can depend on. The snag is that, like we all know, the kind of love that is lasting doesn't just happen, it is facilitated. Am I lying? Think about a man and a woman in love. There are two kinds of love. The one that happens and the one that is facilitated. The one that happens, just happens, lasts exactly at the most 2 years. And if you get married, 6 months. The one that is facilitated lasts a lifetime or shorter, just long term. Commitment doesn't happen because the human being or the employee is committed. It happens because the organization or the practice does the necessary things to make that person committed. So you have in place things that make a person feel a need to be committed to your organization. If you don't do that thing, they will remain engaged, and sometimes even the engagement level will drop. There are 3 reasons people stay in an organization. And so there are 3 levels of commitment you will have. There's affective commitment, normative commitment, and continuance commitment. I want you to think about a union, a marriage again, husband and wife, or whatever relationship it is they have these days. Affective commitment means that you stay in the relationship because you desire to. If you see a married person who is in a marriage because they desire to, there's a way they run the relationship in that marriage because they want to stay. Affective commitment. Normative commitment is you remain because you ought to. It's kind of marriage where you talk to the woman and she says, I'm still there because of the children. Or, I'm waiting for my daughters to get married because I don't want them to come from a broken home. Society says I should stay. My great-grandmother didn't get a divorce. My grandmother didn't get a divorce. My mother didn't get a divorce. Why should I get a divorce? Normative commitment because you ought to. The last one, continuance commitment, is you stay on because you don't have a choice. If I leave my husband, who will feed me? It's the same thing. If I leave my organization, with all these issues arising in Nigeria now, who will employ me? Now, the best kind of commitment to work towards is affective, at the worst, normative commitment. So here's the good news. Even though an engaged employee isn't necessarily committed to the organization, there's another research that says commitment raises the possibility of sustained engagement, which is very good. It means that if they are committed, then the engagement will stay on for a long time. That's good. And then you have an engaged person plus a committed person, which is not such a bad idea. The reason we are having this conversation is that you may not understand very clearly what it means to have people whose engagement level is low. Low engagement levels is like a viral infection. Let me explain it in a way that doctors will understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. I got this from one of your websites. I don't know anything about what you do. I've even forgotten my O-level biology. But I got this from a website. It says, a virus attaches to a host cell, enters it, and releases its DNA or RNA inside the cell. Is this true? The virus's DNA or RNA takes control of the cell and forces it to replicate the virus. Is this true? Okay, we're on course. The infected cell usually dies because the virus keeps it from performing its normal functions. True? When it dies, the cell releases new viruses which go on to infect other cells. True? Some viruses do not kill the cells they infect, but instead alter the cell's functions. And sometimes the infected cell loses control over normal cell division and becomes cancerous. Think about a low engaged employee. A low engagement attaches itself to the employee, and the infected cell usually drops in productivity. Sometimes the infected cell, some viruses do not kill the cell they infect, but instead alter the employee's behavior. And sometimes the infected employee loses control over their behavior and becomes very disruptive. Do you see the relationship between a viral infection and a disengaged employee? Have I been able to? Yes, okay, great. Just so that I send it home, let me show you some statistics. Aon Hewitt normally conducts this global research on employee engagement. And they said that for 2013 in Africa and the Middle East, 30% of the workforce highly engaged, going to work, putting in their best, rigor, vigor, and all those things. Says 37% were moderately engaged, meaning engaged but not so engaged. 20% of the people who are in the workforce, when they're in the office, they are physically present but spiritually absent. And the 13% of the people you see there are the people who stay back in the organization, collect their salaries from you, and cause unnecessary problems for you. And they do it very quietly. And sometimes they are the ones you love very much. See what has happened in 2014. Same survey, 2014. Highly engaged dropped from 30 to 23. Moderately engaged went up 1%. Passive went from 20 to 23. Actively disengaged went from 13 to 16. Do you see what I mean when I say that low engagement is a virus? Can you see that the highly engaged people have been infected? And their survey for last year, they didn't break down, but I made a call to somebody I know there, and he said to me, Chara, I'll give you the figures, estimates. And he gave me these estimates for 2015. Low engagement is disruptive. And so you need to do what you need to do to get your people engaged and committed, and for a long time, so that they stay. Think about the way Nigeria is now. Just close your eyes and think about the way Nigeria is right now. And begin to project the numbers for Nigeria for 2016. I have a very funny feeling that highly engaged will be 2.5% or something like that. Okay. When you look at any employee or you assess any employee, you will notice that that employee is either low on engagement, high on engagement, or somewhere in between. Or that same employee is low on commitment, high on commitment, or somewhere in between. If you break that area up into a 2x2 matrix, you get 4 people types. They are the people who we call the people with a hidden passion. They are low on engagement and they are low on commitment. I don't know how they get into organizations, but somehow they are there. People who are high on commitment and low on engagement are the people with organizational passion. People, in other words, they are very committed to the job, but you don't see it, or to the organization, but you don't see it in the results that they produce. The people who are high on engagement, low on commitment, are the people who have a passion for the task. They throw themselves into the task. These are the people who are highly engaged, but very low on commitment. They are the ones you say to, the Christmas party is coming up on so and so, will you come? They say no. Or you say to them, this person is unable to be at work today, will you do their job? They tell you, that is not what I was employed to do. See that one on their job description? They will do it well, but they will not go the extra mile for anyone. The last one, high on both, is exhaustive passion. Now, one of the things I found common to all the dental practices I interviewed is that they said to me, we do not have an HR budget. Meaning, there's no plan for human resources. That doesn't mean they don't train and develop. It just means that They train when they see a need to train. So there's no plan. And I understand it. You see, if your organization is filled with people with hidden passion, why would you want to invest in them? If your organization is filled with people with a task passion, people who work very hard, but who you know are working hard to gather experience so they can live, why on earth would you want to invest in them? Except, of course, you want to practice corporate social responsibility, which is not a bad idea. They also don't invest in people with organizational passion. Only a few organizations do that, and I understand why. And the people who have organizational passion feel bad that although they feel this thing for the organization doesn't show them love. You see, these are the group of people for who love is a feeling. You remember we agreed that there are two kinds of love. The love that just happens and the love that is facilitated, right? The love that just happens is a feeling. That's why they say love is a feeling you feel when you feel a feeling that you've never felt. Okay, so you've heard that. Okay, good. Now, sadly, feelings don't deliver on targets. Commitment alone does not deliver on results. So, I understand it when you're committed and the organization is finding it difficult to do an HR budget for you. Now, the people who facilitate love are the exhaustive passion people. These are the people for whom love is a verb. Love is not a feeling, it is a verb, and a verb is a doing word. You remember? It is a doing word. Organizations want people who are committed, who are delivering. And if you have people like this, it will be unfair not to have an HR budget for them. But my guess is, if when you hire in people, you're expecting them to spend 3 to 6 years and go off to some country in Europe or to South Africa. I hear they used to go to the Middle East, but now the Middle East is not looking too attractive. Especially, okay, I'll hold it then. Okay, so. And also, you're looking at this person, you know that this person doesn't have any plans of staying, because if they can't get out of the country, they are preparing to move to LUT or to UBTH or to UCH to continue, and so on and so forth. Okay. Well, I would like to suggest that when you look for people, you think about exhaustive passion. My conversation with members of your profession, they said to me that these are the people that private concerns would need to run their businesses. The specialists, the dental practitioners, and so on and so forth. Now, when you have determined who you need, you want to also decide the nature of engagement. I am told that some functions are outsourced. A lot of practices outsource their lab work. They outsource security. Some of them outsource facility. A lot of the specialists in private practices are on contract. They have some part-time employees. Most of the others are full-time employees. So the big question is, I want people with exhaustive passion, because if I have people with exhaustive passion, then I feel confident to invest in them. And hopefully, if I invest in them, they will stay. Especially if I begin to look upon them as people who are likely to run a franchise or franchises for me in other parts of Nigeria, or perhaps people who can look forward to becoming partners someday. See, When you think in that direction, the things work better. So the big question is, can I find these people? And I think the answer is yes, we can. But you have to put in the necessary means. They don't just happen. You work towards it. When you see dental practices that are doing well, it's not an accident and it is not luck. It is because they have put in the means to make it work. It starts with attraction. Making your practice attractive to the person you intend to hire. Building a beautiful brand. When you've built that brand, show it off. Your brand may be exquisite workplace, great aesthetics, good location. It could be great structure, great culture, especially structure and culture, very important. It could be exquisite pay, salary, bonuses, commissions. It could be a combination of all those things. It could be exquisite benefits, like free healthcare, mobility. There's nothing, young graduate starts working for you. You give the young graduate a car, and you give the person housing allowance to pick a house very close to the clinic. You hold the person for a very long time. I have experienced that. People also want to be developed. I spoke with some of the young graduates and some of the undergraduates, the ones who are still about to hit the workplace. And they said to me, Mrs. Udoji, I don't understand why when they look at us, they think all we want is money. At this stage in my life, I want somebody to develop me. I want a mentor. So you can build a culture of development. I'm not going to mention the name of this bank, but I remember so many years ago, Accenture, then Arthur Andersen, gave a job to a nephew of mine. And this other bank gave him a job. And it was at the time when banks were competing for the best resource, and my nephew is bloody good till today. And so he came to me because this bank had given him about 4 times what Arthur Andersen was going to be paying him. And he says to me, Auntie, which one should I pick? And I said, it depends on what you want out of life. If you want to work in this bank, you will have a lot of money. They've put you in marketing. They will give you tight targets. You will be embarrassed and disgraced by your fellow human beings. But it's still a job, and it pays well. At the time, I don't know about now, but I haven't been in touch with Accenture. But at the time, if you were working in Arthur Andersen, from day one, they took you by the hand and they developed you. Your parents will see you 5 years down the line and they won't recognize you. Even your mother will be wondering, you mean I gave birth to somebody like this? And so I said to him, what do you want? And I was very happy when he said to me, let me work with Arthur Andersen. It didn't last. 2 weeks later, he told me he had made a choice. He went with the bank. And a couple of years down the line, the bank collapsed. So he ran out of the country. There's nothing that beats developing people. Once you have done those things that make your business attractive, the next thing is you reach out and touch the people that you want. You do it by inviting them to your business. You put out word, you advertise if you want to advertise. You tell people, we are looking for people, and these are the kinds of people you're looking for. And when they come, you receive them warmly, but you assess them thoroughly. Have a selection plan. There are so many ways of assessing people to be sure you're getting people who are very close to what you want. Then you make them an offer that they will not refuse. And when they say yes, you hire them. You hire them, you don't leave them hanging. You start from day one to develop them. So as soon as they join the organization, don't give them space. Put them on an onboarding program. A program that tells them what the business is about. Our culture, how we do things around here. Let me just say something about culture. If your organization has a powerful culture, people come in with their bad behavior and they bow to the culture. If they are unable to bow to the culture, the pressure of the culture will throw them out. But if you don't have a culture, they come in with their bad behavior. Let me tell you what happens. Human beings want to thrive. So they walk in. If the culture is not working for them, they try to change the culture so that they can thrive in it. And so you have like about 7 crazy people in your organization. They don't own the business, but they decide what happens with your people. And so you want to onboard and tell them, this is the way we do things around here. You teach them their job, you train them, especially as the complaint is that they're not coming in very finished from universities these days. You expose them to work, you stretch them, give them very stretching assignments, and see how far they go before they break. You have career conversations with them. You don't just hire people and every morning they say good morning to you. You go into your office and lock the door. Every now and again, you need to call them to ask them, how are things? What are your plans for the next 2 years? You know, those conversations tell you a little bit about the people you work with. Then you coach them and or mentor them, and you tell them and show them how to be the flag bearer of your brand. Now, when you develop them and you don't put in the necessary means to retain them, they leave. And your practice becomes a training ground for other practices. So you have to do things to make them stay. Remember I said commitment is facilitated. You need to remunerate them well. Now, if you're going to start somebody off on 10,000, that's fine. But have a good conversation about it. Going to start, lawyers do this very well. Start you off at 10,000, but I will grill you, and in another 2 years, you'll be a very good lawyer. Those who are interested in the intrinsic things of life are the ones who will stay. And those are the ones you need. Those who are unable to delay gratification, let them go. I never heard that an organization collapsed because one person left. You will miss them. You will regret their leaving. But sometimes it's good riddance to bad nonsense. Give them responsibility. Make them feel a sense of achievement. Give them visibility. You are an experienced practitioner. You're going for a conference. Take them along. Sometimes they invite you to come and give one small paper. One small organization invites you to come and give one small paper. Send them to go on your behalf. Tell them to prepare the paper, and that at 5 o'clock this evening, when you're done with your last patient, they would make that presentation before you, because they are carrying your brand and they are making that presentation on your behalf. You give them corrections, you dot the I's and you cross the T's, and you tell them, see me at 9 o'clock or come in at 6:30 tomorrow and let's talk about it again. And when they're ready, ship them off. And then get feedback and find out if they did a good job. They feel good about that, because what you have done is that you have shown them that you trust them. And when they have done well, recognition and advancement is in order. I can't talk about retention without talking about job satisfaction. You know, money as a motivator remains a huge debate in organizational behavior. Things that motivate people for a long time are what we call the small things. But those things are the fundamental things. Things like good work-life balance, like a decaffeinated environment. Some environments are so full of caffeine, very stressful. Every day you're going to work, your heart is pounding because you don't know what you and your manager are going to be doing today. Very caffeinated environment. And sometimes you're the CEO, you're sitting on top of that bomb. You don't even know it. You need to find out if your people are satisfied. Psychological safety, a feeling of, I can say, for example, at meetings, what I feel. I don't have to say what you want to hear. Fair reward systems, a feeling of community. See, because the employee goes to work and spends about 9 or 10 hours at work. Perhaps another 3 hours in traffic. What is left? They sleep, they wake up again. So, their job means a lot to them. And therefore, a sense of community might be a good idea. Teamwork is also nice. Now, between development and retention, you retain, you develop people, you reward them, they stay, you develop them. But see, I teach in a business school. The truth is that the more you develop them, the more they become attractive to your competitors. The better they become, the more attractive they are to your competitors, and your competitors will keep on trying. Because your patients sometimes cross carpets and they go and they say, ooh, there's a great doctor in so and so, and he's so good, and he has such great manners. And all of a sudden, that person wants to reap where they have not sown. And so you need to do everything to keep them in. And finally, no relationship will last forever. At some point, you're going to have to disengage. When you disengage on very fine terms. Even if you're not happy that this person is leaving, remember that once upon a time, this person served you. And no matter how much you invested, don't ever forget that they contributed immensely to your organization. And so when they resign, let them resign well. You can actually have a conversation with them about the terms of disengagement. Perhaps they may want to set up a franchise somewhere. Perhaps you may want to offer them partner. Perhaps you may want them to work for you on contract or on a part-time basis. Or they may stop by for locum from time to time. Or when you need their services, or you have a certain case and you will not be in the country, you can ask them to come and do it for you because you trust them. And so, this is how to build and manage human resources. The first level, between attracting and recruiting, is talent acquisition. Between recruiting and development is talent identification. Between development and retention is talent development. Between retention and disengagement is talent deployment. To achieve this, you need to craft a good HR policy. You need to plan your employee from entry to exit. The good HR policy, I asked some of the practices to show me their HR policies. I would rather reserve my comments. But a good HR policy has organizational structure, code of conduct, what confidentiality means to you, hours of operation, attendance, leaves, privacy, overtime, compensation and benefits, disciplinary process, incivility, how to manage incivility in the workplace, and so on and so forth. Alcohol and drug use. A comprehensive HR policy will help you manage your people better. There's a difference between hiring people who have exhaustive passion and people who are just employed. In decision making, people who are employed check on the boss for every single decision they have to make. Should I extract a tooth? The tooth is looking good for extraction. There's nothing else that can be done about it. Why would you want to call your senior who is perhaps somewhere in Israel doing something just so you can run something by? For policy, for the employed, you need rules and rules and more rules because you know they are not committed to you. For exhaustive passion, you need guidelines, more flexibility. For employee monitoring, for the employed, you check on your reports. For exhaustive passion, you coach the report. The employed person takes their time to do things, wastes time. The exhaustive passion person is on the clock. The employed person will just give you good enough. Exhaustive passion person will give you excellence. Employed person will burn your cash and not give a flying fig. Exhaustive passion will be thinking about value topping. When there's a decision to be made, the employed person will put the boss before the customer or the client. Exhaustive passion person will attend to the customer or client first before they think about the boss. Approach to innovation, employed will do things the way they did it last week, last year, and 2 years ago. Exhaustive passion will do it in new and better ways. You want your practice to thrive and you want to keep people for a long time. Hire people who are engaged. Support them with a good quality of work life. Give them a firm job with structure, process, resources, sense of accomplishment, work activities. Manage your environment so your environment is not decaffeinated. They get on with their colleagues, they get on with their leaders, they get on with their subordinates, they enjoy coming to work. Provide them with opportunity. Reward them when they've done well. Make sure you have a good HR policy so that your decisions are more objective than subjective. When you do this, they will stay. I have told you what I know, and I think that if you do this, you will hire a lot of people with task passion, and that's fine. You can convert them from task passion to exhaustive passion. You will hire some people with organizational passion, and that's fine. You can convert them from organizational to exhaustive. The ones you don't want are the hidden passion. These are the ones that will damage your patient's teeth, and then somebody will sue your practice. But if you do these things, you will find you will have more people with exhaustive passion, and then you will be motivated to have an HR budget. When people ask me, how do I position my practice or my business to attract and retain my preferred human resource? I say to them, it starts with the question, what is your exit plan? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Not yet. Please, can we give not a warm, but a very hot round of applause for Mrs. Doji. That was a fantastic lecture. As in, I was motivated from my small end. I don't know about anybody else, but that was a really fantastic lecture. Thank you very, very much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So I hope now we're all ready for human resources. Mrs. C, if you will forgive me, if anybody will agree to hire me, I'm up for hire, if Mrs. C will allow me go. Please, do we have any no, I know we have many questions for Mrs. Udoji. So who would like to take the first question? Anyone? Questions? Please, Yinka. Oga has a question.
Mrs. Udoji, my name is Damola Da Costa. I am not going to say anything, and I will not reveal any secrets, but I will go straight to my question. The dental practice is peopled by, or let me put it this way, we don't have too many people as staff. Give it, you may. I'm talking of each practice. You could have 2, 3 practices in several areas of, say, Lagos. How do you have what you call this HR budget with very few people who you work for? Now, let me go down to the specifics. You have the clinical part, and you have the business part. On the business side, you probably have 1 or 2 or 3 people who will, of course, run the business side of your practice. How do you balance the two with a budget? I would like to know.
Answer is very simple, Dr. Da Costa. You give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and you give to the big guy what belongs to the big guy. For the dentists, you know exactly the kinds of training and development that they need. For the business people, you know exactly what they need. And if you don't know what they need, you invite the Lagos Business School, and we'll be very happy to have a conversation with you for free on how to start. Now, when you start and you need further help and you come back, that is when we begin to have the kind of conversations you have with your patients at the reception. Okay, but on a serious note, the business side of the practice is also very important, because you know, something that happens in professional environments is that we tend to pay more attention to the professionals than we pay to the staff. So, in HR, we call the professionals the line staff, and then we call the non-professionals the staff, or the people on the staff line. But we fail to recognize that the people on the staff line provide the support to professionals. And therefore, if you don't treat them well, they will come and go. I'll give you an example. I think that an accountant is someone you should keep for a while. I think that a practice manager is the person you should keep for a while. And if you motivate them by developing them, you should have a plan. Perhaps you may want to put your money where your mouth is. So you want to spend more on the professionals, but you must be seen as being able to have a budget for the people you hire. You don't hire people and they give you their best and you don't develop them. So it's give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to the big guy what's the big guy's.
Thank you very much, Madam, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
For most of us that are very far from what you're talking about, it's educative and enlightening. I want to ask a question. You mentioned the relationship between dentists and the residency copiously. That's the drift from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Now, as a teacher, I encourage my young graduates to go out there, do the housemanship, do the youth service, and come back for their trainings. Because the earlier they do this, the better for the country in future,
Yes.
and for their future.
Yes.
Now, there is the snag. The young man comes in, works hard, and wants to go back for that training. It breaks the heart of his employee. How do you deal with that relationship? Because for me, I think there is room for continuous relationship.
Yes.
They can come back.
Exactly.
But because the way you stressed it, it would seem that such categories of persons are not too helpful to the organization because they are in a hurry to go back there and acquire some more. They are not the guys that want to flee the country. They want to go out there, develop themselves, and maybe in the near future, replace their bosses who are their employees. Maybe you can just share a little bit of light in this regard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing this up. This is very important, and I'm very grateful that you brought it up. Remember, towards the end of my conversation, I had said that at some point there will be some disengagement, and that disengagement can be managed well. So if somebody is thinking of disengaging to go for further studies and hoping to come back, if that person is good, I mean, this is not new. In Lagos Business School, people leave and come back. They go and they get better qualified and they come back. It happens all the time. There are lots of organizations that I know people leave and they return, and the employers actually prefer them because the devil you know is better than the St. Michael you don't know. And so people go and come. And it's, I think the last slide where, the slide where I talked about the stages, where I talked about disengagement, and I said disengagement doesn't have to be filled with rancor, kind of addresses what you have, the question you've asked.
Good morning. I'm a public officer and I work in a hospital, public hospital. You said the first thing when you get a job is to plan your exit. And I feel that I want to have my own hospital. You are working with government at the same time, you say that you are planning your own. Interest now is a problem. How do you manage it? Number two, you have employment that were posted to you by government. You don't know their background. And they started misbehaving. They have connection. How do you manage them?
Sorry, I didn't get that. The second one.
Yes. I say you are working with some people. You don't know how they are employed. They were transferred to you to be working with. You don't know their background. Nothing about them. And they have connection and they started misbehaving. What do you do?
Okay. Let me start from the last one. You know, it's not a problem with the dental profession. It's a Nigerian problem. And here's what I say to people who are in a leadership position. When somebody is sent to you, remember that since you are not perfect yourself, you cannot expect perfection from anybody else. People come with their pros and their cons, their strengths and their weaknesses, their baggage and their best behavior. What I suggest to managers is that you work with the person with the good sides while you try to get to understand the person, to understand where the bad attitude is coming from. I know a lot of people who are very connected who don't throw their weights around. My experience is that those people who throw their weights around are the people who think that they are connected. And so sometimes when they do these things, the best thing is, if you can, to close your eyes. But I'm going to ask you a question. What exactly, can you give me one or two things that this person would do, and perhaps I can tell you how to manage it? While they pass you the microphone, let me take your first question. You said, how do you manage the conflict of interest that arises from thinking about your exit
Yes.
and your thinking about your exit doesn't mean you're going to steal from your employer and then exit. Thinking about your exit is telling yourself, I am now employed as a public servant. I intend to do this for X number of years. In this X number of years, this is what I intend to achieve. I intend to qualify here and qualify there. I intend to do so and so and so and so. I intend to acquire experience in the different 3 or 4 branches of dental surgery, so that when I exit, I am ready to run my own practice. Throw in attending an executive program at the Lagos Business School, and you're ready. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, very well.
Yes.
Sometimes you talk about absentee from work, or when the time is not yet to close. I'm going for my children, women. 2 o'clock, are looking up. They give flimsy excuses to leave the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason they do that is because they are not engaged and they are not committed. Remember, they are the people with hidden passion. And your job as a manager or as a leader is to bring it out. So perhaps a career conversation with this woman who is giving you stress, and by the way, all women don't exhibit this kind of thing that you just expressed. Let me just stand here and stand opposed. But the point is that you need to manage human resources. They bring them to you and they are not doing what they should do. You need to sit down with them and the more you talk with people, perhaps the more you get to, the better you get to know about them, and then you get to know what interests them. Perhaps they are not interested in extractions. They're interested in learning something else. Talk with them, find out what it is they want, what it is that motivates them, and then start from there. Now, I'm honest with you here. There are people who come to work. You remember we talked about the 3 views of work? The people who just come there as an occupation. Sadly, the public sector has a problem. It's not just your profession, it's everywhere. If they send you that kind of person, you do your best. If that person is not working, focus on the people who are your fellow voyagers and get those people where you want them to go. If you read anything on business, Pareto principle tells you that sometimes you employ 100 people and only 20% do the work, and the job still gets done. That applies a whole lot in the Nigerian public sector. Any more questions?
Okay, it's back here. Hello, ma'am. At the back?
Back where?
Oh, okay.
I see you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for such a wonderful lecture. My name is Niyi Taiwo. I've been looking at the model you proposed, or possibly as more apt for a private setting, possibly a private practice. I'm looking at it at the level of a government establishment. You have somebody who is engaged, who is committed, and then there's no reciprocal relationship from the head. Talking about things like going on strike every now and then, there is no passion. There's a saying that the master sells, he doesn't sell, the Agbe will get his money. There is that kind of mentality among staff. How can we adapt this human resource management to a government setting? I have an example. You have somebody who is passionate about the work, fully engaged, fully committed, but there's no ambience to really support that kind, and then frustration comes in. So I'm trying to see how we can reconcile the two ends. Now, looking at it on a government setting, more than not the private setting we've discussed. Thank you.
Okay, once upon a time in this country, working in the public sector didn't happen because you were looking for a job and you wanted to take on any job. You worked in the public sector because you had a vision. People who went into the public sector to serve, to help people, to grow people. Sadly, today, the people who go there are people who are just looking for a job. They can't get a job elsewhere, so they go there. But I think that there are also a lot of people who go there with a lot of passion, like you said. It is really tough. But I have also seen leaders who, in a very tough environment, have been able to build formidable teams. And so this is the reason why in certain organizations, you have the organization of the culture of the organization and you have the culture of the team that is very different. So first thing, you have people who have a passion. Perhaps the civil service is not showing them a whole lot of love, or the public sector is not showing them love. Perhaps it might be a good idea to sit down with them. You know, I said something here. Money and advancements are not the only motivators. There are other ways of motivating your employee. But you need to understand the person first and understand exactly what they want out of life. And sometimes it's good to have a realistic and honest conversation with people. Not too long after I was hired into LBS, a group of public servants who came to LBS to do a course refused to have me in their classroom. And the reason is that I was teaching them self-knowledge and self-mastery and self-leadership. And I asked them to write where they would like to be in 10 years. What is your goal? Public servants. They were talking about having big money in their bank accounts, building houses in very posh parts of Lagos. And so one of them actually said he would like to be an alpha. Anyway, when I listened to their conversations, I said to them, if you're a public servant and you're planning to have this kind of cash in 10 years, you're planning to build property in these parts of Lagos, there's only one way you can do it. And they say I insulted them. And they said they did, because they were quite elderly. I was still young. The truth of the matter is that you need to have these very important conversations with people. When I first graduated from school, I asked a wise old man, where should I look for a job? And he said to me, it depends on what you want out of life. If you want money, you go into business. If you want to walk the corporate ladder, you join the corporate world. If you want knowledge, you become a teacher. If you want power, you join governance. You become a politician, or you join the civil service, and so on and so forth. He said, what do you want? And I think I did what I wanted. You need to explain to your people that when they join the public service in Nigeria, it comes with it's a territory. You need to have honest and open conversations about it so that they adjust very quickly. Okay? It's not a great thing to adjust to, but if you explain to them that there's a way things work here, and until we change it, there's very little you can do about it, and then you can give the person tips about how to navigate. I think that's about the best you can do. But that's sadly the state of our country. Any other questions?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ma, for the wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
My question is about this human resource management with respect to persons like young graduates like us trying to start our own in terms of the human resource budget. Because most times as a thriving clinic or a clinic that is just starting, how do you factor this in for your employee? Because if you don't have big money set outside elsewhere, I am sure that getting your employees in terms of human resources to work with you will be difficult. So how do you go about it if you don't have an already established practice, maybe that you bought or leased from someone? Thank you.
Okay. One of the conversations I have with my full-time MBAs in LBS, it's a very painful conversation to have, but I tell them to their faces, we won't all start big. We won't all start big. It's a painful reality. Some of us have uncles and aunties and relatives who can give us 200,000 there, 1 million naira there, venture capital to set up something. Some of us also have people who would guarantee us for bank loans and so on and so forth. Some of us don't have that. And so, you have a vision and you take it slowly. I know a gentleman who is one of you who started off his business with absolutely nothing. And that is because he was ready. Sometimes people say some people got lucky. I believe in luck, but I also believe that luck becomes opportunity when you're ready. We won't all start big. You have a vision to set up a dental practice. The thing is to sit down and ask yourself, how can I go about it? And believe me, there are many opportunities. There are people in this country who have a lot of cash and don't know what to do with it. If they trust you, they will invest in you. The problem is the trust. And this is where I get to say that the Nigerian Dental Association can do a whole lot in this regard. I put a question to one of the dentists I spoke with. I said, if market women in Idumota and Igbo traders in Aspanda have access to an organized private sector where they are able to get loans to do their business at a reduced rate, and they pay those loans, I do not understand why an intellectual body like yours cannot organize such a thing. In other words, membership, if the Nigerian Dental Association is structured in such a way that membership gives you credibility, then it makes life easier. In some parts of the world, just putting that you are a member of this organized body puts you on a pedestal. Am I right or am I right? Yeah. And so we are part of the problem. Sadly, government is not interested in helping a whole lot of people. So you're going to have to find a way to navigate your path. But I know somebody among you who set up a dental practice with nothing. But that is because he was willing to do what it takes to get it going. A lot of times, people want to start big, and I don't blame them. Everybody loves the bright lights. Have I answered your question? Okay.
Thank you very much for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
Quite enlightening and eye-opening. My name is Dr. Amaka Umano. I've been in private practice for a while. While your lecture was going on, my mind was going back on so many things. In fact, I started asking myself, perhaps I've been quite unfortunate because most of the people have had to work with me. Just within a few months, you're being asked for permission to go for one interview or the other. And I'm like, what is going on? And it's always like they want to go and do a residency program here and there. And then as you were talking, I was like, how now do you, do all these things that you're saying? Keeping them, maybe giving them a car, things like that. Things, because really you want them to stay. Especially when you have in mind that in your practice you want to leave a legacy. So how do you go about doing all that? It's a question I don't know, but it was just going on in my mind. It is not one, not two, not three, you know. In fact, I was talking with somebody here asked me, perhaps when you're interviewing them, maybe you ask them, do you want to go into practice and all that, or private practice, or you want to go into residency? A lot of them will tell you that, it's private practice. And then somewhere along the line, these things begin to happen. Thank you very much.
Okay. Until recently, I think a couple of dental practices could compete with the salary of the residents. But I think something happened and the salaries went up. Is this true? And things changed. So I feel you. But the thing is this, that one of the questions I don't ask at interviews is, where do you see yourself in this organization? You see, because some of those questions are very theoretical. But it is a good idea before you hire someone to try to get the truth out of that person. And this is the reason why, I mean, you have an honest conversation and you say to the person, what are your plans? I know you're a dentist. I know that most dentists want to do this. If you did it, you might say, I also did it. And so I want to know how long you intend to stay with me. I think that when prospects see an honest, open employer, they open up to you. Sometimes the reason why they cover their faces or they shield or mask who they are is because they are not so sure how you would respond. But if you come out clean and say to them, you know, I started out like you. At a point, I wanted to ship out and go and do my own. So I won't be surprised if you would want to do yours. But I need us to have a conversation. How long do you intend to stay? And when the person says, I want to go, you say to the person, are you likely to come back? Especially when they are leaving, you say to them, are you likely to come back? And if they are very good, say to them, you know you always have a job if you want to come back, if they are very good. You may also choose to employ from people who have already left and are interested in coming back to private practice. They may be a little bit more expensive to hire. And so you may want to structure a compensation package that is good for you and good for them. These are also people that you may want to hire on part-time basis, on contract basis. But there's no point being telling a lie about it. And for corporate social responsibility as well, there's nothing wrong with treating people well. When you buy them the car and you take good care of them and they still leave, at least they leave and they say good things about your practice. That makes you attractive to other people. And when you're going to give them a car, buy the car in the name of a company and ensure that it is taken care of so that when they are leaving, you can retrieve the car and give it to the next person who comes in. That's the best you can do. But you need to have, especially in your profession, you need to have open conversations with your employees. I am very willing to swap phone numbers with you to have further conversations on this because I've done some work in this kind of area, this area. Yes.
To work with time constraints. So the last question, wow, that's a lot of questions. Okay. One more question. I think I will leave it to, okay, fine. Last question for Mrs. Doji.
Thank you, I got that. Today is my birthday, so I'm happy I got it.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm 50 today.
Wow.
Thank you.
Let me just be of bad manners. I think that a happy birthday will be in order. Can we just sing a happy birthday? Please. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Thank you all. I feel blessed. Thank you. Thank you, Ma. My question goes, thank you, Dr. Azwara. How can HR handle this? You just employ or hire a staff, and a female staff, shortly down the line, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, they get pregnant, and they have to go. I mean, it's been a problem in our private practices. So how do you advise we handle such? Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, I was hoping nobody would ask this question. I really prayed this morning. This is one of those times when the guy upstairs ignores me. Okay. This is the reason why HR policies are good. If you have an HR policy, then you can be very upfront about it. Much as I do not like organizations that fire somebody because they got pregnant, because pregnancy is a fact of life. It is something that happens. I would rather run a policy around hiring someone, the person gets pregnant, and having a policy to manage somebody who gets pregnant 3 months after joining the organization, before 6 months after joining the organization, before 1 year after joining. You know what I mean? You have clear policies, and before the person comes in, you say, our policy is this. It's the way we run our organization. But there has to be a way. The person is pregnant doesn't mean the person is having their baby tomorrow, right? Okay, so if they are pregnant, what I usually recommend to organizations is you keep them for as long as they are strong and healthy. And when they are getting to that point when they are getting very tired, especially as you're a woman, it might be a good idea to invite them to have a little tete-a-tete. Say to them, look, you're getting very tired, you're sleeping on the job, think you should go. And if they are very good, say to them, if this is possible, go have your baby, take care of your baby. See, there's nothing wrong with having children while you work. I know a lot of women who have become very accomplished having babies while they are working. So say to them, go home, take care of yourself, take care of your baby, and when you're done, return. And when they return and they want a part-time job, they want some locum, give it to them. You see, it encourages them. When they have finished having their children, they don't forget you. Sometimes you do things not necessarily because you're gaining, but because you want to give something. It's called self-actualization. And those, in the end, those are the things that make you feel good about yourself. Happy birthday.
Please, another very hot, extremely hot round of applause for Mrs. Udoji. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was a very, very inspiring lecture. Thank you, ma'am. So on with our program for today. Everything we've done yesterday and today is on our YouTube link, so you can access it. So you could please write down the YouTube link, and you can access the modules of yesterday and the modules of today for your own continuous development. Now, I'm going to take a brief break from business and talk about our own business, Sensodyne, and the business of Sensodyne. So we have Sensodyne outside for sale. As you know, we have 4 variants of Sensodyne: our Rapid Action, our Extra Fresh, our Daily Care, and our Gentle Whitening. And as we all know, all variants of Sensodyne, no matter what variant you choose, first of all, will take care of your patient's sensitivity problems. And the 4 variants come at different prices. For each variant of Sensodyne, it comes in a pack of 12 tubes. The Rapid Action comes at 6,550. The Daily Care is 5,100. The Extra Fresh is 5,000. And the Gentle Whitening is 6,000. Sorry, also I need to make a small announcement. Will the owner of the car license plates KRD 906BL kindly repark? Apparently you're taking up 2 parking spaces, and the security has asked that you please come and repark. Please, can we have another round of applause for Mrs. Udoji? I was extremely inspired by her lecture. Okay, so now I'd like to invite the next lecturer up to come and give her lecture titled Dental Economics, a Clinic Well Managed, a Case Study on Shrubs. Please, can we give a warm welcome to Fumi Oladokun, the General Manager and Director, Shrubs Dental Clinics.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Fumi Oladokun, best graduating student in dentistry, College of Medicine, University of Lagos, 1999. General Manager and Director, Shobs Dental Clinics.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Fumi Oladokun, like I was introduced. I'll be speaking on a topic called dental economics. I'll start with an introduction of the definition of economics by a person called Paul Samuelson. He defined it as a study of how people and society end up choosing with or without the use of money to employ scarce productive resources that could have alternative uses to produce various commodities over time. Now, basically, I know some of us did economics in school. There was the scale of preference, and then limited and scarce resources. So basically, economics is saying how you use these scarce and limited resources to achieve and allocate them via a scale of preference to achieve your objectives. So dental economics, in the same guise, is just basically how we allocate these limited resources, money, land, different things, to achieve our goals in dentistry. Now, most dental practices face business problems due to core economic issues. As a result, dental professionals can use this definition as a guideline. One, to analyze the best way to manage these scarce physical and human resources, to analyze choices by using a cost-benefit analysis, that's on a scale of preference or opportunity cost, as it was called then, make efficient choices for current and future productivity, analyze current and future consumption plans, increase growth and development. Basically, plan also. Plan your, I'm stuck. Now let's examine the following scenarios. We have 3 scenarios here of dental practices. Now we have one that the location is fantastic, the physical resources are excellent, state-of-art technology, everything is okay, but the dentists are not competent. You have another one, they have a team of competent general practitioners, dental specialists, but you don't have you don't have experienced DSAs or admin staff. You can imagine a scenario where a patient comes in, the clinic is nice looking, the dentists are well spoken of, they are very experienced, and then the front officer is very rude, and the person comes in and is already put off by the customer service he or she receives. So that's the second scenario. Then we have a third scenario where there are computer management systems like practice management systems, state-of-the-art equipment, everything is done, but we don't invest in the human resource. We don't hire right, and then when we do hire right, we don't train our staff to be able to manage this equipment and to also be able to, run with the vision and the goal of the dental practice. So I'm going to talk a bit about the resources, these scarce and limited resources, as pertaining to dentistry and running a dental business, as it were. Now we have the land resources. Like we said, the 3 most important considerations in real estate are location, location, and location again. Now, the positive indicators that your location is good is that it's in a nice geographic location. I know sometimes this may not really be possible in real life, but these are the things to consider. You look for a nice geographic location. Can your patients easily get to your location? Can people easily drive to your location? Is it easily accessible? Is it a nice place where they'll feel secure, secure enough to, come and have their dental needs to be met? Does it lack severe professional competition? This is also very important because some of us might just want, I've just always dreamt that my practice will be on a certain so street. And on that street, there might already be 3 other dental clinics that are already flourishing. You don't want to just go and put yourself in the midst of severe competition to start with. Then real estate ownership. Is it possible to own the property later? Is there a possibility of being able to own the place? Even now, maybe you can take a loan, a mortgage. Is it possible to own the place later in future? Is there plenty of available space? Is there space for parking? Do you want to have a children's play area? Is there space for expansion? If you're starting now with a 1-room practice, is there a room for expansion later to a 3-room practice? Now, I'll use an example of when we wanted to open our Ikeja office. Now, when we were first looking at different places, there was a place we saw. I was so excited. I said, this place is big, it's nice, it's cheap, relatively, And when my bosses came to check the place, they said, no, that we can't use this place. Number one, it will be difficult. Patients will have to drive. It's off and off and off and off and off. It won't be easy for people to locate. So those are some of the things that you have to consider when choosing a location. So we settled for somewhere off a major street, but at least is easily accessible, is visible as well. You want somewhere that even if you are not advertising, we can't really advertise in our practice, but even if you are not advertising, you can drive and say, oh, there's a dental clinic over here. Is it near in landmark? Those are the things that we need to consider. And of course, the negative indicators that you look at are the reverse of this place. Negative means that it's not an ideal geographic location. It means the demographics are not real and so on and so forth. Now, we'll also talk of physical resources. Now, the positive indicators of a practice, either you own a practice or you are planning to own one, the positive indicators mean that you have modern facilities. You have state-of-the-art dental equipment operated by competent staff. You have brand-name dental instruments, materials, and supplies. Now, I'll give you a scenario. Now, a patient sent a text to one of my colleagues the other day asking that, why don't you wear that gadget that your boss wears? My boss wears loops, magnification loops that assist him with seeing better. And, it's just surprising. Patients notice everything. Just sent her a text, after being treated. How come you don't wear that gadget your boss wears? So they are aware, they know, they see. And patients go around, by the way. They travel abroad, they are aware, even if you don't know. And then even the ones that don't travel abroad, there's internet now. Everything is a global village. So patients can easily access things online, they can check. We have many Google dentists now that already will have diagnosed themselves before they come to you. I know what I have. I know what this is. So it's important also to add that as a wow factor. If you can afford it, try to have some recognizable names in your practice. It's part of your wow factor. It's part of your uniqueness. So state-of-the-art practice management systems, it also helps you. It makes your work seamless. It also puts in internal control and audit measures in your practice. Availability of a mini dental laboratory. I know running a lab can be expensive. Most of us outsource our laboratory work, but at least we should be able to cast a model in our practice. I know many practices already do that, at least cast a model. Then you should have a sterilizing room, one central. Even if you sterilize in your surgeries, and you should have a store. For record purposes, for due process, you should have a store. Human resources. I need not to overemphasize this because the speaker before me has already talked about human resources. But human resources are where most of the improvements are needed, especially for dentists. Now, for most of us going to dental school, here and abroad, unfortunately, the business of dentistry, the business aspect, the economic part of dentistry is usually not taught. So we don't really know about the human resource aspect. So now, ideally, the dental economics model should comprise of 4 professional staff teams. We should have the medical team of clinicians. There will be general practitioners that can be supported by specialists, orthodontists, oral surgeons, cosmetic dentistry. Now, also, there's an aspect of dentistry, they call it the dental spa, where you have people that come in to give in Botox, dermal fillers. So you can be supported by a whole team of specialists as add-ons and adjuncts to your practice. Then we have the paramedical team, which basically consists of the DSAs. We have the admin team, that's the customer service, IT, the front office, the back office, the accountants. That's what forms the back office. Then the coordination team. It's not all practices that have the coordination team. Some people have what we call the practice coordination managers. They have the coordinators that greet the patient and tell the patient, after the doctor has seen the patient, they take over from the patient and explain the treatment plan to the patient and tries to convince the patient to actually do the treatment after it has been done. Now, the back office team has dental practice general management, patient reception, which is the front office, patient record affairs, medical records, patient scheduling affairs, and so on. So I put here, one person can perform 2 or more roles. It depends on how big your practice is now, or it could actually be, each of these could be a department. But also in some practices, some people combine 2 or more roles. The receptionist can be in charge of the records, it can be in charge of scheduling, and can be in charge of finance, handling the finance of the practice. But as you grow, you should have at the back of your mind that these roles are there and the functions should actually be incorporated into your practice. Now, the service and products resources, like we said, this one is actually measured by feedback, as it were. This is feedback from what patients perceive of your practice. Like it could be that you have a recognized professional reputation that, oh, this dentist is very good. If you want to do your fillings, go to this doctor. If you want to do your crown and bridge work, go to this dentist. It could be that the practice has a large patient base, you know. It could be also that the patient has a large recall. You know how to recall patients. If they do their scaling and polishing every 6 months, you call them back to come and do their scaling and polishing. So I put an economic decision-making scenario. To illustrate the application of economic decision-making, the following scenario is given. We had a scenario at our Ikoyi office where we wanted to convert an admin office into a surgery. So there were many things that we considered while doing that. Here I'd like to chip in is a little digression. Teamwork is also very important. You know, one of us came up with the idea that, why not just move this admin office? And the directors, after a while, they listened. So it's not the directors that came up with the idea. So if you're a business owner, it's important also that you listen to your employees. They always have ideas that you might not think of, and it's important to hear them out, at least over time. Now, between the suggestion and the implementation it took 2 years. So you can know that in every economic decision making, there might be a time lag. Now, the questions we asked ourselves: what are the effects of losing the administrative office on the dental practices, operations, and financial affairs? Now, we decided that the admin office or the management was very key to our running the practice, and we didn't want to lose our administrative office. What is the cost to convert an office space into a treatment operatory? There comes in your feasibility study. What is the cost? The physical cost. What's the cost of the dental chair? What kind of dental chair do we want to buy? All the costs, the floor, the renovation, the computers, the equipment, the furniture, the fitting, all these are what you will put into consideration in this place. Will the dental treatment operatory be used for the treatment of emergency patients? Will it be used for primary care patients? Will it be used for comprehensive dentistry patients? What is the expected income from each of these treatment options? Does the practice database contain patients who already need these services? Will you need to run an advert when you open the when you start this new surgery? So I've tried to answer the questions in my next slide. We weighed the cost of losing an admin office, and we decided that we could not afford to lose an admin office, so we simply relocated the admin office. What is the cost to convert an office space? It was expensive, I must tell you, but it was well worth it. The cost comprised of equipment, furniture fittings, renovation, and staffing. Because if you add an extra surgery, then you will need a DSA, you need a doctor, and you need more staff than you probably currently have. It also meant we could see more patients at the clinic, and we could free 2 extra chairs for our specialists to use. Will the dental treatment operatory be used for treatment of emergency patients or comprehensive? In our case, we use it for general and comprehensive patients. Does the practice patient database contain patients who already needed the care? And can they be scheduled for treatment as soon as the treatment operatory is ready? I wrote here, yes, we started using the surgery immediately it was ready. These questions will come up from time to time. Whether you want to start a practice, whether you want to expand, whether you want to start a new location, whether you want to add an admin office, add a lab, add a surgery, add an extra service. These continue from time to time. The list is endless, but like I said, these similar economic considerations will apply. So I put a picture up. This was what our old Ikoyi reception looked like. So we decided, let's tweak it a bit. Let's expand towards the back and make more room for admin so we can have an extra surgery. So this was what we ended up with. So this is the new reception, and you can see the admin office towards the back. And this was the extra surgery we got that was well worth it. So the shops model, our mission is to create a pleasant and relaxing environment so patients can have a great dental experience. Long and short, what we say is we seek to wow our patients. From the car park, from the time you get in, to the receptionist, to when you enter in, from the uniforms of our nurses, to everything. Our mission is to wow the patient. And like we looked at in the 3 scenarios, it's also important that the skill of the dentist is not compromised. In as much as you might have maybe the latest gadgets, the latest everything, that is what you sell. Your skill is very, very vital. Now, I know that we've talked about dentists graduating without having the full skill and all that. Unfortunately, we don't have a dental finishing school yet. Some countries have. When you graduate, you actually go there and go and perfect your filling skills or your root canal skills or some other skills. But you can actually walk up to certain dentists, you can walk up to, and you can actually try and learn these things. If you see that a doctor is very good with root canals, you can say, oh, doctor, so and so, please, I would like to really know how to do root canals properly. Can you teach me? I'm willing to spare 2 months. Please teach me how to do this. And I'm sure most dentists will oblige. Shop started in 1988 with 1 surgery in 1 branch at Apapa and 2 dentists, and we have grown, to God's glory, to 3 branches, and we have a team of 12 dentists and 9 specialists. You remember when I was talking about having a supporting team of specialists? Specialists bring patients, patients need specialists, specialists will also need to refer to you. If you have a periodontist, the periodontist will refer to you for an extraction. It's teamwork. You see a patient needs orthodontics, the patient also, the orthodontist will refer for scaling and polishing, for extraction. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. This is Ikeja. This is our Ikeja office. I also wanted to talk about space. I know it's not all the time that you can get this space. Ooh. I don't know. There's a disconnect of some sort. Okay, I'm sorry. So this is our Ikeja office. This is the back view. This is the front. Ample parking. Clean. This is our reception at our Ikeja office. This is one of the surgeries at our Ikeja office. This is parking at Ikoyi. So I now put what we've learned. Skill, like I said, skill cannot be overemphasized. Your skill as a dentist is first the primary thing that you're selling. And then the more you know, the more you make. So we put a little analysis here. There are simple procedures and advanced procedures. If all we can do is extraction and dentures, then that's all we can earn. But if we can do extractions, we can do dentures, and then we can now add more. Like we can now do root canals, we can do fillings, we can do crowns, we can do veneers, we can do implants. Then we are able to sell to the patient the best, and we can also be able to earn more in the process. So take time to enhance the professional skill of your dentist. And since most of us here are dentists, please take time to enhance your professional skills. Take courses, read, research, attend workshops. Be up to date. Your patients are. Your patients will be the ones coming in and be telling you, I want so and so brand. Is Invisalign I want. Is so and so I want. They've read up on it. They know. At least you should be able to educate your patient. This is what you want, but this is what is available and is equally as good. You also have to know what you are offering the patient. You have to know your brand. Now, planning. Planning, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, is a regular saying. But it can also be achieved using, you can plan with a feasibility study. If you're setting up, I put this basically with the mind of someone trying to set up a practice. You have to determine what type of practice do you want. Do you want a general practice? Do you want a specialist practice? What kind of practice do you want? What kind of location? Where are you looking to locate your practice? You do a market survey to examine demand. But I would say, if we are about 160 million, I think, as at the last count, there is more than enough for us to do. And we are so few dentists available in Nigeria. As at the last count, I think I saw someone's folio number was 40-something thousand. That means the ratio of dentists to each person in the population is really, really low. So there's enough ground to make. There are enough patients to see, but we just have to plan. Now, staff detailing has been discussed. Hire right, define your roles, make sure you are never under or overstaffed. Do an equipment list. Stock up for at least 6 months. If you are setting up a practice, you are not just stocking up for one month. You are stocking up for at least 6 months. You are making sure you are getting ready staff salaries for at least 6 months. If you are starting if you are expanding, you are making sure you have enough for at least 6 months. Then you project for 4 years. Your financial projection should be at least for 4 years. Now, capital is the major source of concern for most people. If you intend to set up a practice or expand, the first thing to do is save. I know the first thing in the mind of most people is, how do I save? If I earn 150,000, I have 2 kids, I have bills, I have rent. That's the reality of living in a city. How do you want me to set aside money? But if you have a goal, then you have to live lean. You set aside money because this savings is tied around to so many things. If you go to a family member, the first thing we will ask you, you say you want to set up a practice. How much do you yourself have? You are saying you have, sir, uncle, I have 50,000. You are not yet serious. When you are ready, you come back to me. So you yourself have to start saving. Put aside money in an account that you will not touch. If you are planning to expand in the near future, you have to start saving. Saving. Now, Shops was lucky. They started from savings and they got loans from family and friends. Like the last speaker pointed out, not everybody will be lucky to have family and friends that can give them loans. And not everybody will be lucky enough also to have someone that can guarantee them to get a bank loan. But your savings can also be part of equity for a loan. So there are other sources of capital. There's equity participation where some people will invest in your business for a certain percentage of your practice. So I can say, for example, you bring me your business plan, your whole setup is about 15 million. Okay, I'm going to invest 10 million. But I'm going to take 40% of your business. And you will be CEO, I'll be MD for how many years? Every decision, that's basically the long and short of equity participation. Someone invests in your business for a percentage of your shares or a percentage holding of your business. And you could use combinations of different types of sourcing of capital. Stock, sell your shares, loan, savings, family and friends. You can use all, you can use some. However it is, you can source for different... Now, getting a loan from a bank, it takes discipline. You first have to start saving over the years, get ready, follow through with the bank requirements. Sometimes the bank requirements can be really tough. They can be really tough to satisfy. As you are bringing this, then they ask for this. They ask you for equity, you satisfy that, then they ask you, go and bring this. Then you bring this, they say, no, they are not satisfied, go and bring that. Then you give this, but follow through. Even if you don't get the loan, you have been disciplined enough, you now know how to get a loan in case you still need it later in future. It's also good to just even know how to go through the process of doing it. And also, it's also important to use the loan for what you want it for. Some people will take a loan for this and divert it to other parts of or another business entirely. Please use the funds as promised. Now, management. Basically, we divide, I think there's some. We divide shops into clinical and management. So clinical is everything that is clinical. Management, we put human resource, admin, IT, records, everything under management. So the clinical aspect is, of course, the clinical, the dentist, the specialists. Then the management is where we talk of the human resource aspect. Please go for quality staff. Don't settle for less. Have a little more than you need. I call it backup staff. So that your flow is continuous. When someone leaves, you have someone that can take over the role. If, for example, you need one front officer. You can have two. One can double maybe as a medical records or as a retainer staff that will be doing something else for you, but you also already know that that person can also function in the front office. That way, if your front officer just gets up one day and say, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go, my husband said I should not work again, then you have someone that is called I call it a backup staff. Keep your relationships formal. Make sure you document the process, sign agreements if need be. Keep records, like she talked about the HR policies. Make sure you have a policy for everything, overtime, staff attendance, leave. Then try to pay good remuneration and make sure your payments are timely. If they don't fit with the vision, please don't keep them. Otherwise, they'll keep dragging you down. Then records. It's important you have patient notes. I believe everybody, at least, will have patient notes. Document everything. Keep records, daily, all your daily transactions, your daily records. Make sure you have an IT team. Maintenance. We generally do not, we lag behind in maintenance in Nigeria. If there's a problem, fix it. As much as lies in your power, please fix it immediately. If you leave it, then it becomes more complicated. It's just like a hole, a cavity. If a cavity is still small, you know, there's limited, you can just do a filling or thereabouts. But if it now gets deeper, then it goes into a more complicated process of a root canal treatment or an extraction. But if the same thing goes with our equipment, if a light bulb is blinking, please do not ignore it. Make sure it is fixed. If your equipment is faulty or is malfunctioning, please ensure that you fix it properly. Ensure if you do not have in-house technicians, we have in-house technicians. We also used to outsource our technicians, but after some time, we decided to employ engineers to maintain our equipment. Ensure you have technicians that you can easily reach, that you can call if your chair is broken down. Oh, my chair is broken down, please come and fix it. My x-rays machine is broken down, please come and fix it. But you must have a maintenance culture. Do not leave it to rest. Oh, we'll sort it. Then this one is broken down, we move to the next. When the next one breaks down, what do we do? So, number your equipment. Teach your staff how to dispense. This applies to nurses, to dispense your materials prudently. Our materials are very expensive in dentistry. And waste is not, we should try not to encourage waste. So from beginning, when we employ a nurse, we should teach them how to dispense properly. This is how to dispense your cement, how many drops, don't waste. Use appropriate measures, but not reduce wastage. Now, financial management. I'm not a finance expert, but I'll try. First thing I should say is you should see yourself separate from your practice. I am Fumi and Shobs is Shobs. See yourself separate. Your accounts are separate. You are separate entities. Because this will affect how you relate with the money you receive. It's so easy to just feel, oh, this money belongs to me, and just dip your hands and spend the money. It belongs to Shobs. It doesn't belong to me. You need an accountant. Bills and receipts should be written for every patient. Total receipts must match your bank deposit. These are just things that you need to have as you go along. Keep records. Keep debtors in check. Now, I know sometimes there can be an issue. How do we handle debtors? Now, some people have been old friends of your practice. They've been your friends, personal friends, friends of your practice. How do you handle debtors? Do you collect your money before they go for treatment, before they do the treatment? Do you let them go? And then even apart from personal debtors, then you have companies. A lot of us have retainerships with companies that owe us money for a long time. but at least let's try and keep them in check. Write them, reminding them from time to time. If you can call them, try and reduce your debt profile. The debt can actually affect your business. Fix fees correctly and review prices regularly. I was reading a research paper, but it was from the US about fixing fees. Many of us undercharge, and it's across board, whether you're a small practice or a large practice, because we have to consider the economic situation of Nigeria. We have to consider what are our friends on the next street, what are they charging? Then a patient will come and say, I went to loot the other day, they are charging 3,000. Why are you charging so and so? So we are faced with this challenge on a regular basis. How do we price correctly? You have to remember that this is the only money you are making. It's from the fees you charge that you pay your staff. It's from the fees that you charge that you maintain your equipment. It's from the fees that you charge when you have savings that you can expand your business. It's from the fees that you charge that you get paid a salary. It's from the fees that you charge that you do all the business that you do. So we must charge correctly and try and fix the prices such that we don't run our business down. Because if we don't price correctly, then we won't be able to maintain our equipment correctly. We won't be able to pay our staff properly. So a lot of things are tied to this particular point. We do a market survey. We are now the highest in the market. Now someone is charging so and so for braces. Why am I charging so much for braces? Will they not run away? Will they not? But you also have to remember that you are also buying from nothing. I don't think, is there anything produced in dentistry in Nigeria? I'm not sure. Even gloves, ma? She said, we are produced by Nigeria. So even floss, we import dental stone, we import everything, and we have to pay in FX to get these things. So we have to price appropriately. Pay liabilities properly. Don't let it pile up. If you have bills to pay, pay it as a when due so that it doesn't pile up. Save for emergency. Then plan to replace your equipment. Even after you have now set up, you should always have a set aside, a saving set aside for expansion or for replacement of furniture, of equipment. Because your equipment too, they have a lifetime. They will get obsolete or they will get damaged, and then you will need to replace them. So you always have to keep saving and keep saving and keep saving. No matter how much you earn, just make sure this is a, will I say, renovation account or an expansion account or something. Then you must be on a salary. I know I've run a business before, and it's difficult sometimes when you own the business, especially in the starting stages. You might neglect to actually pay yourself a salary. And you can just decide, Shebi is my business. As long as I'm okay, why am I paying myself a salary? But you need, however small, earmark a salary to yourself. You should also try to give yourself some allowances. Even if your salary is small, at least your fuel, as long as you bring your receipts to the company, you should be able to, some things should be paid for by your business. Then save for emergency, like I said. Plan to replace your equipment. Then invest in real estate, invest in your practice, invest in your staff, train your staff. Now, marketing. Now, this is a very broad topic in economics. Now, marketing, the first type of marketing is word of mouth. Now, with our restriction in Nigeria, we can't advertise on a billboard or we can do some things now. At least there's online marketing, there's social media. But social media, as good as it is, you can imagine 2 patients putting negative comments about you on Facebook, how much it will spread. So we also have to be careful when we are using the social media, when we are getting into the train of the social media thing. But it's by word of mouth. That's the easiest way, that's the confirmed way for us here back home, is by word of mouth. Satisfy a patient. Satisfy the patient. Make sure the patient's treatment needs are met. Make sure the patient is satisfied with your customer service. Make sure the patient is satisfied with the total experience at your practice. And a satisfied patient will always spread the word. Wow, I went to somewhere today. You need to be there. Have you heard of that place? You need to get there. Have you seen that place? Hey, my God. And then the person says, where? Really? Let me go and visit the place. And then from there, your referrals grow, your networks grow. Make sure you satisfy the patient with skill and in every way possible. Now, the next I say is one of the ones we use is outstanding housekeeping. We are very particular about our housekeeping. The floors must be clean. The blinds must be cleaned. We are very, very, very particular. And even when people come and inspect us, that is the first thing they notice. That shops, you have outstanding housekeeping. You must be clean. At least that one should not cost much money. To make sure that your environment is clean, your grass is your lawn is mowed, and everything is clean and tidy and together. Then social media, at least have a basic functional, mind my words, functional website. It means that at least a patient can reach you from a remote place. Can just go to your website, I need an appointment, or I want to find about the dentist in your practice. I want to know the faces of those that practice in this clinic. Then recalls and continuing care. Now, recall patients for prophylaxis. You should remind patients. Patients are actually grateful when you remind them about their prophy appointments. You know, if a patient does a checkup 1 year, you can remind patients, you're due for your next routine dental checkup. It's a way of marketing. You are helping the patient prevent more dental complications, but at the same time, you are marketing your products. So know your market. Know your market. The Nigerian market is different from any other kind of market. We have a unique, what sells in the US might not work here. So we have to understand our patients, understand what they want, and try to offer what they want. If you know most of your patients like to come at weekends, maybe you should try, even if it's 10 to 12 on Saturday, you can try. I know some practices open on Sundays. It's up to you. Some can do extended hours, like, after work, so that a patient can come in after work and they extend till 10. Whatever, just know your market, know what your patients require, know what your patients want, what majority of your patients want. Like when we were at Ikoyi, a lot of our patients were the ones saying, you don't have in Ikeja. In Ikeja, we were stalling, this Ikeja. That's how they'll be saying it now. When you open it, they will not come. But after a while, we actually realized that a large number of our patients wanted us to be around Ikeja. So we started looking and planning towards setting up a practice at Ikeja. Know your market. And I wrote here, be informed your patients are. So I just put 2 pictures here, 2 of our branches, just to show you clean. There's one that is just a narrow space to the restroom, but it's clean. Clean walls, clean floors, clean frames, clean. One is the landing to a waiting area, and it's clean. Your practice, it doesn't cost much to be clean. It just needs a mop stick and a mop. Be clean. please. This is one of our sterilizing rooms. You must have a sterilizing room, however small. It's not all our sterilizing rooms that are this large, but you must have one where you take all your equipment and go and sterilize it. It's good business practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fumi. Thank you. Please, can we have another round of applause for her? That was a very well-managed clinic. So please, do we have any questions? Madam Birthday. Okay, please. We'll take questions and questions now. Okay, question 2.
Thank you, Doctor, for the presentation. My question goes, what model do you practice in at your clinic when it comes to payment of fees? Are payment paid before treatment or after you've done the service, then the patient goes in to pay? Because I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we are still trying, we are still struggling with our principles. We are trying to actually introduce a prepayment kind of system. That is actually the system, that's the only way you can be debt-free. Prepayments, where the patient, what we've successfully done is that registration and consultation will be paid at the point at the reception. We have a lot of issues with it because we've run for 20-something years where patients are used to walking in, they just walk in, come out and pay. Then we are trying to change it. Patients are revolting. No, I've not even seen the doctor. How do I even know the doctor I'm going to see? I don't even know what are you talking about? You are just harassing me. I don't even know the quality of service I'm going to receive. You're already asking me to pay for a consultation. What's all this? What's all that? What's all that? You just say, oh, it's the new company policy, ma'am. We're very sorry. Payment is due before service. Now, we're trying to introduce it. Now, we're having issues with our older doctors complying. It's easier for our newer dentists because, they've just come into the system. We're introducing, so where the patient goes in, is seen, and is given a treatment plan, treatment options with the fees. Now, the patient decides, oh, I want to choose a root canal treatment over an extraction. Thank you. Please, with the treatment, we have treatment estimates. The patient goes downstairs and pays and comes to receive treatment. Now, I know it takes more time, but we get our money. And for me, that is the best method. Now, many clinicians will disagree with me. Even within our colleagues, some of our dentists don't agree with me. For me, why would you insist that my patient should pay? It's awkward. I haven't offered the service. I'm asking the patient to pay. But in Nigeria, even when patients have the money, when you discuss the fees with the patient in the surgery, they will say, oh, okay, so 50,000, okay, no problem. Then when they get out, they now say, I only have 15,000. Will you collect this? I'll come back. You see, I'm traveling. I'll come back and pay. But they might not come back and pay. And then your debts begin to. If I would advise, the prepayment is the easiest way to be debt-free. I know some practices in Nigeria that adopt that. It's strict, and they are debt-free. The only people that probably owe them are companies, are multinationals, or maybe retainer companies. That's what I believe. So for us, we adopt a mixed. Some of the older doctors, they will see the patient first, and then whatever the patient has. Sometimes we are able to convince the patient that, sir, we cannot do this job. You have to pay. Then what we tried to work with our doctors. Okay, if you can't do it for all patients, can you do it for certain procedures? For example, For crowns, all patients must prepay. For braces, the initial deposit must be paid before it's fixed. So we were able to dialogue with some of our doctors and reach a compromise. Okay, if you insist you cannot bring a patient out to come and pay, it's uncomfortable, it's awkward and all that, then for crowns, your patient needs to know, before you even start the crown prep, the patient has to pay, because we too will pay the lab before we have the crown done. So the patient who has to pay for the service. Because imagine now you cut a crown, you send the crown, the patient doesn't come back for the crown, and you've paid the lab. So if you've even incurred debts without getting any money for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the lecture. I'm Dr. Okechukwu from UCH. Please, since this lecture was about dental economics, I thought this would be a good place to ask this. You talked about save, set aside money. But you see, and you also said that most of the things we use, we import, you know. With the way exchange rate is going, the 1 million naira you saved this month will not be 1 million naira next month, you see. So when we say save, please ma, what would you advise me? How do I save? So that what I save now will not be a waste.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, I understand that the fact that if you stack up money in a bank, then there will be inflation, the money will be devalued, and other things. Now, before, people used to say, okay, invest in stock exchange, but then also the stock market crashed. Then if we say, oh, invest in real estate, I know people that have bought land that has been the same price for the last 5 years, and it has not appreciated. So the important thing is still to set money aside. Even if it is devalued, you can decide to still buy shares. It's actually rock bottom. I'm not sure it can go lower than this anyway. You might decide to do that, but I really wouldn't. It's such a risky, in quote and unquote, I really wouldn't advise people to buy up shares. But there are also other money instruments that you can invest in. There are bonds. I know some banks do all these equity funds. So you might decide to put your money, but make sure you investigate where you are putting your money, that the financial institution is strong enough to remain till when you're ready to use your money. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is, okay, thank you very much, ma, for your lectures. My name is Ogunbayo Olakunle. My question is in respect to the real estate. What if you have a place? The place is big, is huge, a very good road access. But the thing is that the people staying there, they are not so well to do. So do you think that if you're starting up, do you think that your practice is going to strive? Or is it a very good positive indicator to start? So that's my question.
Okay. If it's big, but the people are not well to do. Well, there are dentists in places that are not so well to do. First, you have to decide and then let me clarify something. The fact that you are in an area does not mean you are just targeting the people of the area. If my practice, for example, is in a it's somewhere the people living there are of low income. It doesn't mean that I'm just targeting the people living around there. You have to first decide what's your niche, which people are your targets. Is it the middle income earners? Is it the low income earners? Then you price as such. You can set up your practice as long as you've done your feasibility study. You feel that it will be viable. It's in a good location, like you said. People can easily find the practice. People can easily locate your practice. and then it's large enough, you can set up, you can expand, you know, there's room for growth, there's room for parking and all that. Did I answer your question? Pardon? Okay then, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful lectures.
Thank you.
My question is not strictly, my name's Dr. Azura Ifeanyi David.
Thank you.
My questions are not strictly directed to you, but to, one, the organizers of this program, two, to Lagos Business School, and three, to Nigerian Dental Association. You know, we have succeeded in getting a lecture of 6 months or 1 year in just 2 sittings, and that is not just good enough. I'm wondering whether GSK, sorry, can work out a program with the Lagos Business School where we can have a kind of a certificate course or some other thing with, you know, with this whole thing, so that we can sustain whatever we have done here. Because, you know, it's quite easy for us to listen to wonderful lectures, go back, and in the next 3 weeks, 1 month, everything is gone. So please, GSK, specifically, what the dentists here are demanding or making a request with that the Lagos Business School should institute a program that can be periodical, so that whatever gains we have made of this program will become sustained, because year in and year out, we have 1 or 2 things going in, and, you know, people are nodding, are clapping their hands, wonderful lectures, wonderful comments, but that's where it ends. If we have to practicalize whatever we have done here, then GSK should rise to this occasion, because to us, that is a request, and that is a demand, that we should have a business class or business school that they can find a way to accommodate us with a low cost. Thank you.
Thank you. That question was directed to the NDA and to GSK.
Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of GSK, I would like to respond to Dr. Azura's question or comment. I'd like to say that this program or this seminar has been scheduled for this purpose, and we'll look into making something substantial and arranging something with LBS, so that this can form a platform whereby dentists or healthcare professionals can actually gain capability in the industry, so that we can take precedence and take charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions for Dr. Fumi? Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very, very much, Dr. Fumi. That was a very, very engaging presentation on a very well-managed practice. So now, this morning, we've had a very inspiring lecture from Mrs. Udoji. We've heard from Dr. Fumi as well. And, well, it's time for item 7 on the menu. Lunch is ready. And we'll have lunch just before our final lecture of the day. Now, one thing that Dr. Fumi said, and I'm surprised no one asked a question on, and Dr. Fumi, please, I'm going to quote you here. You said that in a clinic, in a dental clinic, that we need to stock materials for 6 months and have a business plan for 4 years. And nobody asked the question, where is the money going to come from? Where is the money going to come from? That is a very valid question. And you will hear the answer to that question after lunch. Thank you very much. Please, can we have the ushers? Can we have the ushers? It's time for lunch. So that they can arrange lunch.